how long does our contract with Securitas run, and are we looking at rebidding that contract? And do we want to tie something like this in for 3 years?
All you do is you buy them out, or they take the equipment out, and you go with the new provider. You have several ways of doing it.
Okay.
So, since we really haven't started to look for a new vendor yet, that's gonna take us a good 6 to 8 months. By the time you get through all the interviews and the proposals and hearing what they say they're gonna do for you.
Well, that begs the question of,
Yeah.
where are we in that process?
I don't know.
We were doing it about every 3 years, but I don't remember the last time we did it.
Yeah.
It's
We've,
been more than 3 years.
right now,
I'm sure it's been
we
more
have
than
not
3
put
years.
anything out to bid, as of right now.
Is our contract up?
We have an annual contract.
Oh, it's an annual.
But all contracts are cancelable, 30 days.
And Nance, I think the last time we did this is when the WCI arbitrarily announced we were getting a new security firm.
Mhm.
And we said, bring them on, we won't pay them. And we stayed with ours. That's the last time I can remember.
It's been years.
Yeah, it has been.
It's probably been 6 or more. Chris, how long do you recall?
I've been with the company for about a little more than 3 years. We've had Securitas the whole time I've been there. I believe Kent
We
was the
selected them
company
for
prior to
that.
that.
Yes.
Well, nevertheless.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a discussion for maybe another meeting as to whether we want to look at the security
Again,
contract.
what we're doing here doesn't lock us in with them.
But to Nancy's point, I think we ought to do these things automatically every 3 or 4 years, just to pop them up, whether it's,
Mhm.
ponds or woods and
We
wetlands
do
or
it with the
security.
landscape.
Or Ameriscape, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we do this, we should do it.
Yeah. So.
I have a question. I was looking at this, the picture, which obviously isn't in color, but I looked at one item and it says customer to provide 120 volts and internet connection. Is that included? That can't be included in their pricing, is it?
No,
So we'd have to do that on top of what they're quoting us then.
that reference says if we don't have it, we already have it there.
Oh, okay.
So, we have the internet.
Oh, okay. We got the 120 in the internet.
Yes.
Where that particular camera's.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's just boilerplate.
It's just replacing the ones we
Yeah,
already
I just
have.
didn't
Yeah.
understand, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, wow.
It's actually replacing everything we have, plus enhancing,
Right.
going to new technology, and having the camera where you have that interaction with the guest and the guard.
Okay,
That has a
thank
microphone.
you, thank you.
I think
Do I have a motion to
All right, I'll make a
approve the
motion
CCTV, officer CCTV upgrade?
I'll second it.
Bob moved, Nancy seconded. Further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, it's 7 to 9, okay. Scott, I think, at some point then you ought to be undertaking, starting to look for, at the Securitas contract
Yes,
and,
I'll start that work.
thinking about doing that.
After next week's meetings, I'll be able to start that work.
Okay.
Even if you do it in January, it'd be, this is a rush.
Right, just.
Yeah.
But we need to do it.
Yeah, well, I'll start putting my feelers out, because it takes some time to
Yep.
get them to respond.
Yeah. Okay, you have further things? that you-
I do.
Yep.
One of the items in front of you is something that I've been working on with Mr. Schofield, and that was the replanting of Cypress Grove, which you have a packet that I handed out to you prior to the meeting. We met with Mr. Green.
Brown,
I mean, what do I call Mr. Green?
landscaping.
Mr. Brown, and with Nancy was there, and also Ameriscape was there. We walked through the entire length of Cypress Grove, and this is what is being proposed for the replanting of that section.
Oh, my God.
Oh my God, it is.
Yes,
This is actually less than the last estimate. If you remember, Javier had given us an estimate way back when we were talking about turnover of $48,000 to replant Cypress Grove. this is
This
actually.
isn't a replant though, this is just,
No, this is to remove and replant and put sod in where there shouldn't really be a pine straw bed. So it's really a pretty big makeover.
This should be an improvement over what we had.
I would hope.
Oh,
Well, I would
Cypress
hope
Grove is
so,
a mess,
too.
there's dead
It's a
trees
mess.
and dead
But
shrubs.
what we got this time was an arborist to work with Ameriscape to make recommendations as to what best would be, what would be the best plants to put there rather than reduplicating what WCI just plugged in to make it look pretty for sales. So our goal was to try to get some planting that would be more sustainable down the pike, would last longer, and hopefully be less maintenance. Now, I unfortunately was not able to be there by the time we got this meeting arranged, and Nancy did a wonderful job. Plus, she's got much more background than I do in some of these plants, so, you know, we just got this the other day, so I haven't had a chance to study it much at all. Nancy's taken a peek at it, we've had just a few, loose comments about it, but.
Stephen Brown is the Lee County Extension Officer, agent from University of Florida, and he's excellent, he's got a lot of knowledge, and
His
he
credentials are
was,
impeccable.
yeah, there were a lot of trees he thought we could save.
Yeah, could you wait? Nancy's talking, John.
Copy of it. What's the total cost?
$43,000.
$43,377.
There were a lot of trees that don't look good right now that Stephen felt could be salvaged. He felt that Javier should try for 6 to 9 months to bring those trees around. They're just neglected. But there were others that he said, you know, they'll linger on for 6 months or a year, but eventually you're gonna have to take them out. He said, better to take them out now than a year from now. I think he gave Javier a lot of good suggestions. The one thing Ameriscape seems to be lacking in is having an arborist on board that really knows trees. So Stephen really, I think, shared a lot of good information with Javier, and he was receptive. This takes out a lot more planting areas, puts grass in than I think I would have liked. I haven't had a chance, he does it section by section. I would have liked to have walked down and looked at sections with this in hand, and I just got it last night.
Well, and again, this is the first time you've all had it in your hands.
Yeah.
I would not recommend that you approve this. I would recommend that, you know, we discussed it, take a look at it, and then give those who are interested time to go back with Javier and walk this property one more time, so everyone has a good feel for it before we approve this expenditure.
I would like to take that time and do that, quite frankly.
I would
Maybe
too.
we could
So
even
let's-
ask Stephen to join us again.
Yeah. So Joe and Nancy, can we ask you to?
Yeah,
Take
why
that-
don't we
take
start
that
with
on.
Javier and see,
where does this put us vis-a-vis Pelican Reserve Boulevard?
Bob, I would think if we can get this done before the next meeting and get something back through Diane to everybody, we might be able, I would like to see us be able to vote on this to get started before the snowbirds.
My
come
question
in.
is this to bring it to the level of the existing Pelican Reserve?
oh, yeah.
Or are we going way beyond?
No,
Where are
We're
we?
not going way beyond, but what we might be doing is setting an example for the other roads and the other communities.
I ride up and down that street almost every day, and it's not smacking me in the eye that it doesn't look like Pelican. Not $43,000.
It was bad enough that Stephen asked if he could bring in, he does a lot of classes for professional landscapers. He asked if he could bring them in because it was an example of everything done wrong in such a short space. That-
Well, again, I come back to, what does he think about Pelican Reserve Boulevard by comparison?
Oh, Pelican Reserve Boulevard isn't filled with dead shrubs and stuff. I mean, it was, Ameriscape, I
Okay.
will say right now, it looks probably 100% better. Ameriscape, since they took over, they came through, they pulled out all the dead stuff and just put pine mulch in to fill it in for now. But there's trees that are dead back there that have been dead for probably a year, 2 years, just.
2
sitting
years
there.
in some
Yeah,
cases,
just-
yeah.
And nothing's been done with it.
When Lennar took
Juniper
over,
did not
Lennar
take
just
care
let
of
it go down. Their goal was, in fact, they made the comment.
Totally understand. If you got a dead tree, give me a bill for a dead tree, replace it. This looks like a complete makeover. The Quite honestly.
It is not a complete makeover.
Well, $43,000, I don't know if they spent that much doing it, but, okay, I'll wait till we hear from you.
So is this all of Cypress Grove?
All of
Does it
Cypress.
include any part of Prado Drive?
I don't,
Or is
the
it
only
strictly
thing.
Cypress Grove
It's
up
just
to
Cypress.
Casella?
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that needs to be done on Prado Drive is replant those trees that are laying on
And
the
a few,
sides.
and a few of the beds.
Few of the
So
beds
this
and-
is
Yes.
basically Cypress Grove?
It is
Yeah.
Cypress Grove.
Drive.
Prado Drive, quite honestly, isn't landscaped like anything else in Pelican Preserve. It's
not.
very, very sparse, so
It is.
if you talk about what looks like Pelican Preserve, Prado doesn't.
It doesn't. And I actually hear complaints from the people in Casella that say they look across there and see all the traffic because there's no landscaping there to block the
Yeah.
traffic from their view. It is very sparse.
Is there any chance that this could be part of a capital reserve improvement?
I don't think so, John. I mean, trees,
What the-
I mean, it is an improvement, is what I'm hearing.
The asset died, what John's saying. The asset was trees and shrubs and things.
Are you
They
just
died.
talking about where to get the money from?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I guess that was gonna be my question. Obviously, this is not in our budget. But Nancy, you know, through July, we're $102,000 under budget. Do we think we're gonna come out under budget?
Oh, I would think so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
But like Scott said, we're not really ready to approve this yet anyway. We just got it, we need to look at it.
Yeah.
Maybe he
For some
came
reason
to
I
it
got cut
prematurely.
off, but you still here?
No, yeah, we're still here. What, go ahead, John, you had more to say?
Oh, I mean, when I asked the question, is it possible that this could come out of the reserve for funding? Then my phone went dead. I had to pick up a new one.
I think, most of us here think it's not really in the nature of a capital, you know, something that should come out of the capital reserve.
Probably
Are
wouldn't
you just-
withstand the test.
Are you just wanting to figure out where to get the funds from?
That's correct.
And it looks like we'd probably be okay, we could probably squeeze it out of this year's budget.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah, we could, if we did it next month's meeting, we could.
Yeah.
You're right. But if you look at this, I mean, it's so much, remove dead firebush, remove dead oleander, remove dead macho. There's so much dead stuff in there that a lot of this expense is taking out a lot of the dead stuff and the disposal fees for it. And they charge a lot for that, unfortunately. I mean, just removing the dead ferns in the one area, and this is just from Carina to Juliana, just removing the ferns, $1,000 just remove them. Because they're all dead, so.
Okay, well, we're gonna continue to take a look at this, let's move on to Scott, you have,
I have nothing else.
you have nothing?
Do you have anything for me?
There was in the package we got, but I guess maybe that was accidental, it was a camera of some kind.
Was that the replacement camera we already talked about?
Oh,
Well, there was one about
The
the
sidewalk
pedestrian
alarm.
sidewalk.
Please.
Oh,
Sidewalk
I'm
alarms.
sorry, I'm
Sidewalk
sorry.
alarms.
I did forget about
Yeah,
that.
pedestrian barrier.
The pedestrian gate sidewalk alarm,
Yeah.
that's basically would be used during third shift. That's when there's very little traffic going on and you can't see out of the guard gate at night because of the glare. So you can't tell when people are coming in and out through the sidewalks. So it's a way to notify the guard that there's somebody coming through the sidewalk and they can step out and investigate it. They can do it on other shifts too, but it's not gonna be as practical because their first responsibility is cars coming through the gate. Of course, they can step out and deal with the residents, but they're not gonna hold up traffic to go check a resident.
And you do have a lot of people just riding their bikes in and out.
Oh, yeah.
walking in and out.
Yeah.
So is this a cheaper alternative than to actually put gates on?
Oh, yes, yeah.
And the
Gates-
gates,
gates are
gates
never
bring
cheap.
up other issues that are problems.
We couldn't even do a drop gate, we'd have to do a iron gate with some type of locking mechanism.
With like a
That they could
card
open,
key or
that we
something.
could open with our card keys probably.
Yeah, card key.
Yes, this is by far the most cost-effective way of doing it.
Is this?
But then to see if we really need something, I think we need to talk to the Safety and Security Committee to see if they want to do something else, because then you're talking about stopping bicycles from going through the archways. They're gonna have to get out, open up the gate, and then take their bike through. So there's a lot of things that have to be discussed.
I've seen them do that at other gated communities.
They do, but I mean, those things we haven't addressed yet.
I'm a little concerned if there's any, and I have no idea, third shift, maybe there's not a lot of traffic coming through there.
Yes.
But in any other shift, I would imagine if this thing sounds off, that it's gonna go off all the time on the other shifts.
Well, that'll be great to know. I mean, you know, at least they're notified that somebody's coming through.
Could it be
Yes.
turned on and off, so that it's
Well,
not
I'll
on during
check.
the day?
I'll check, I would rather not have that.
I would rather not have that either.
I mean, if it's
Third
on,
shift
it's
doesn't
on.
interrupt his nap, he turns it off.
You know,
Well, and I guess that's the other concern is, we're hearing so many complaints about the Securitas personnel, and with this system, we're relying on them to get off their butt and go see who's coming in.
well, isn't that nice that we have a camera on them in the future?
Yeah. The rest of the.
One of the nice
is
things
gonna have a
about
camera.
cameras and a guard gate that is part of this proposal you
Yeah.
approved, is you can sit back and see if they're sleeping.
And I have had people tell me they've seen them sleeping in the
Oh, yeah.
contract.
Well, then now we can verify
We
it.
can verify that we've already approved that piece of it.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
the question is, do we think this camera is needed?
I'll support the camera. I don't know if you need a motion.
And this isn't really a camera, it's just like a.
No, it's a laser.
It's
A
a
laser.
laser light.
Yeah.
Yeah, an intrusion beam.
The alarm.
Yeah.
But the alarm sounds,
Huh?
but the alarm sounds.
Yeah.
And Scott, did that also include a sensor
Screen
light
fog,
with
you can see
that?
it's red.
No, that's what it is. It's a
Oh, so it's-
laser, it's a sensor.
But what I'm saying is, when that laser is tripped, I know it's gonna make an audible sound, is it also a sensor light that's going to shine in that area?
No.
I know that was some discussed,
No.
okay.
See, I think a light would be a great deterrent, if it went, if something, a light went off, if somebody was trying to sneak in, they would have to think, man, my picture's been taken, I'm getting the heck out of here. That's a great deterrent for house security, and has been for years.
And so is a red laser light.
Well, if they can see it, I mean, if a light goes on and they
That's
can
true.
see it, I would like to see something.
You can see it when you come through though, can't you? Just like the car one, you can see that light. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't notice it, but when I walk out, if I go through that, the little red laser comes on. If I
I'd
walk
like
through
to
the
see
car
something
lane.
that's very noticeable, that they can't miss and know that they've just been
Yeah.
caught walking
Yeah.
in or riding in.
Mr. Chairman, what do we need to vote, are we need to vote on this, or?
Well,
already passed?
we would if we want this, but what I'm hearing is people want something slightly different.
Well, let's start with this.
Let's
We are.
start with this, I'm fine with this, I'm just,
Okay. Bob, do you wanna make a motion?
Yeah, let's start with the proposal as accepted.
Okay.
We have opportunities to
Install
answer.
sidewalk alarm. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Has your
Cost?
committee,
No,
looked at this?
we really have not.
Would you like to look at it
I think so.
first?
Yeah, I think it would be desirable.
Then
Okay.
that'd be
I'm
my
okay with that.
recommendation.
Okay.
And what is the cost?
$925.
And we'll
So it's a
defer to the
one-time
safety
cost.
Huh?
And it's a one-time cost, it's not a monthly fee or
Correct.
something. Okay.
We'll take a look at it.
All right,
Yep.
very good.
Don, make a note of it. Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, authority for expenditure pre-approvals, this came up because of this thing that I just signed, but I want to get some feedback from district council before we discuss it. So, I'm going to remove that from the agenda. However, John had something he wanted to bring up with regard to the Sienna situation. So, John, fire away.
All right, at the last meeting, you asked that I investigate the speed bumps, et cetera. And, let me just quote David Caldwell's, email. The quantity and type of speed bumps were among the requirements that Sienna requested in order to grant an easement. for the portion of the cart path on the condominium property. So my question, which I asked Bill before the meeting, has an easement between Sienna, is that all squared away now with the board of Sienna?
Yes, my understanding, I mean, David Caldwell would know better than I would, but my understanding is it is.
Okay, so as a result of that, I mean, do we really want to do a survey or whatever it is to determine exactly if these speed bumps are on their property or not? Are we?
That was the, John, that was the thrust of the question.
For that.
John, that was the thrust of the question, is did the bumps, as installed, were they placed on the track that Sienna had control of? Or were they placed on the track that was part of the CDD?
Okay, well, here's my concern. If this was part of the requirement to get the easement, even if one of the bumps is not on Sienna property, but they requested this in order to resolve this easement issue, do we really want to, let's just leave it alone? It's paid for by Lennar, CDD didn't have to pay for it.
Are you suggesting?
I've not been able to, go with a bicycle or go with a golf cart over it. Other people have. Is there a real major concern with these bumps?
The short-term answer to that is absolutely. If you talk to Terry Lilia, her office was bombarded with complaints. But they're separate issues, okay? The issue that I thought you were investigating was.
I understand that these bumps were also lowered. Is that correct or incorrect? I'm not there.
They're
I mean, I'm
blips, they're
gladly-
now blips and not bumps.
They were constructed improperly, and then they were reconstructed to comply with ADA, but they're all extraneous questions. Did they put them in area they had no right to put them? That's a yes or no.
And the second question, do we care?
And the second question is, do we care?
That's
Do
the
we
question
care?
John is asking.
John's question is, do we care?
Okay.
Bob, you seem concerned about this.
Well, I care because, first of all, that they did it.
Mm-hmm,
It should never have been done on property that wasn't theirs, period.
right.
And for that reason and that reason alone, they ought to be removed, period. And secondly, there's a hell of a lot of people that use it that don't like them. And Terry can give you the absolute numbers.
My concern is that, is this a small issue to bring up with Lennar when we have so many other bigger issues that sometimes we're faced with?
John, if they come to your house and put something in front of it without your knowledge and permission, are you gonna be okay with that?
I missed your question.
If Lennar comes to your driveway and puts a bump in it without talking to you or asking you about it because somebody 4 doors down wanted it, are you okay with that?
If the reason the people 4 doors down wanted it to benefit the whole community, and it didn't affect my driveway, I might.
Okay.
Be okay
What
with
gives,
it.
what
And
gives,
I'm asking, are we fighting a small battle that isn't worth it?
Well,
I'll gladly
okay.
do it, I'll gladly approach it, we can, they say, hey, let's do a survey, the whole thing.
I'm okay with that too. But you're missing the whole point. I'm not talking about its merits.
May not be on their property.
I'm not talking about the merits of what they did or not. That'll stand alone. I'm saying they had no right to do it.
And I'm not gonna disagree with that.
Then they ought to take it out. If they want to do it properly. Bring it to here, bring it to the CD, take it wherever it has to go, safety, security working group, let them recommend it. They just arbitrarily did it.
Well, they can always ask for forgiveness after the fact and come and do it. So,
But-
and
Maybe
the
that would be
answer
more
might not be.
appropriate.
But the first question was, did they have the right to do it? And the answer to that, I believe, based on easement, because it's not on their property, meaning Sevilla. Let's remember, Sevilla's the one that asked for it.
Sienna.
Lennar did, Sienna. Lennar didn't want to do it. Sienna wanted it,
How do we know it's on CDD property?
because of where they are. The only part that Sienna had is maybe 25 feet from Pelican Reserve Boulevard
Up to the-
inward. And they didn't construct, I think they might have one that might be in that zone, but the other two are not.
Clearly not.
Then my recommendation would be to ask that it come back in front of
The
Well,
CBD.
The CBD.
Well, the first question was to find out from John, did they put it on Sienna property or on our property? And I haven't heard the answer to that.
He doesn't know.
No, the answer is, this, Sienna said, this is where we want it in order to get the easement. So it was part of the agreement in order to get the easement.
John, you're missing the whole point.
If we force them to take it off.
You're missing the whole point. Sienna had no right to ask for it.
easement-
Sienna had no right to ask for it if it wasn't on their property.
They can ask for
Do you
anything.
want to lose the easement or not?
I don't care if we get it or not, that's not our problem. We didn't ask for it. No one was denied access. We're supposed to be advocating for the community, not for one neighborhood. The neighborhoods plural, didn't ask for this. One group of folks did. Lennar went and built it on an area they didn't have the right to build it.
But wasn't that because if it wasn't done, Sienna was gonna close off that part of the path?
Well, if you really think that was gonna happen,
Which
okay.
would have affected the whole neighborhood.
If you really think that was ever gonna happen, I do not.
Well,
You want to take that chance?
Yeah, I'll take the chance.
I must admit, I'm at a standstill here, knowing how to proceed.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Lennar has set a precedent by overstepping their boundaries and putting those original bumps in. They should have never had the chance to do that, and they should be reprimanded for it, but the chances of winning anything there are pretty nil. They went back and they did fix them so that they are very, very minor. Any bike, anything can ride over them without any issues. Trying to resolve this, I don't think you're gonna get anywhere, but I do think a precedent's been set, and I think a statement should be made that we're not happy that they went on our property and did construction work without our permission or authority. I think just a letter stating we're disappointed, we won't accept that in the future, might be something worthwhile to do. That we've noticed it, we've been affected by it, and it's not the way business should be done. And the community might have wanted it, and I can understand that, but they don't have the authority to speak for somebody else's property.
Well, I think that we're forgetting Sienna in this, and if Sienna had that as part of its negotiations, then I think if a letter goes to Lennar, it certainly ought to go to Sienna saying you overstepped.
I would agree with
your
that too.
authority.
They should have come here and asked for permission.
And keep in mind, Lennar didn't do this to benefit Lennar. There was no benefit to them to do this. This is one time when they did something, I think they thought they were doing a good thing. And it turns out, we don't
I
think so.
gotta agree with that. I think that's how Lennar felt with it. That's the way, it came across.
The only thing Sienna wanted was the sidewalk. I don't know where the bumps came from. That's all Sienna wanted.
What?
They wanted the sidewalk. Lennar
They
built
wanted-
the sidewalk.
they wanted
That's
the
what they
bumps.
got for the easement.
They wanted the bumps.
Well, apparently they wanted the bumps, then they didn't want the bumps, and then they wanted the bumps.
Can't find anybody that says they want the bumps now.
They wanted something that would slow traffic down at that pond, at that
At
little
one
sharp
point,
turn.
they didn't want golf carts on it, period.
Right.
Bob, the complaints that Terry's been getting,
She's had many, many, many.
since the bumps were lowered, or?
Still the same thing. Some of the older folks that walk their dogs and stuff,
Yeah.
they don't like it. I'm not saying it's hazard. I kind of agree with Joe, it's not a big deal. It doesn't bother me, this is not a personal thing from that. Doesn't bother me, but the way they went about it, I think was totally inappropriate.
I think that's set a very bad precedent, and if something isn't said to them, they'll do it again.
You
That's
know,
my
if
concern.
tomorrow the Monticello board meets and says we don't like the bumps, take them out. Okay, they come on our property, CDD property, and take them out. What are we gonna do then? I mean, as absurd as it is, but it should not have happened.
It does seem absurd to me.
And if Lennar wants to have control of the path, I'm all about it. Then he can fix the damn bridges. You know, they keep doing it two ways. One time they say it's theirs to do, but when it comes time to fix the bridge, oh, that's yours. But when it comes time to satisfy a single building or community or HOA, they have no problem sending people in to build something.
Do you want them to take the bumps out?
I don't care.
Well,
I honestly don't care.
If the,
I think
no,
that
it's
it-
gotta be a yes or no.
Well, then I'm gonna say
You-
yes, only because
then-
they were inappropriately
then,
built.
If that's the case, then it requires something from Tony Pierce. If that's what you want. Okay, if you don't want them to take the bumps out, I'm not sure.
I don't see any value to the bumps per se.
Well, I agree, the bumps are, they
You
don't
imagine
do
if
anything.
we got Tony involved with this?
Well, it'll be 6 months before you even acknowledge it.
John, are you endorsing what they did? Is that what I'm hearing? Or because it's more of an issue to get rid of it?
I think there are battles to fight, Lennar, and I don't think this is one of them.
Well, what if they put in 4 more next week? Is that the time?
Well, then, hey,
Would people-
writing a letter or something might be in order, but.
Yeah, this is,
Yeah, let's
Huh?
move on.
yeah, let's move on. Would people be satisfied with a letter from the CDD admonishing them about this?
Both of them, has to be both parties.
It's gotta be both
Well,
parties.
it's
I'd be satisfied.
Well, you gotta send it to Lennar, because they did it. You copy furnish to Sienna, because they asked for it.
The Sienna,
Just, you
Sienna
say,
instigated it.
well, you send it to them, but,
Anna requested
They
it
requested
according to David,
yeah.
and that was part of their requirements for settling the issue with the easement.
Right.
But did they
So-
require them that did they require that they be put where they eventually ended up being put?
David, and in his email, he basically said that, yes.
So who writes the letter?
Well,
You say the CDD,
Yeah,
who
well,
writes the letter? If it's not Tony.
Let's,
you know?
I'm ready to move on this one. Let's rethink it. Bring it back again.
I agree.
GSCDD board meeting report, I was lazy and did not write you a report, at least for the meeting that I attended. I'll give you a briefing on it. Joe made some comments about sidewalks, and work that's gonna be done in Prado.
The work started today. None of those people that live there were notified that the work was gonna take place. And I know their utilities are gonna be shut off for a period of time. They got no warning about that either. I was over there just before I came here. In fact, I tried to come out the back work gate because I couldn't get here on time otherwise. I succeeded. But, they just started that work this morning. They are moving a fire hydrant right now, but they've got fire hydrants to move, trees to move, water lines to move. It's gonna be a mess for a while. And they, from my understanding.
Why is this happening?
Pardon me?
What?
The city of Fort Myers required sidewalks to be put in on the end of Prado, back where the, construction road is. And there's about 8 houses altogether at the most that will be affected. 3 houses were sold, moved into, they're now private property. A 4th house has also subsequently been sold and moved into. They're putting sidewalks in 3 of those yards to meet the code. None of the residents were notified they were getting sidewalks, whether they were on the original prints or not, I couldn't tell you, but, bottom line is, they're putting them in. My feeling is they're not putting them in to meet the codes, they're not putting the bedding in under the concrete. I told them they should notify the residents, I did that personally, but, I think they're gonna do the same thing they did in Carina, they're just gonna dump sidewalks in and walk away.
What role does the CDD have in accepting,
Well,
inspecting, or whatever?
We had a meeting, CDD had a job site meeting, which I attended. The engineer that designed it was there, CDD was there, I was there, the contractor was there. We asked some questions. I do not believe that the district engineers were in attendance at that meeting, but they were brought up as they approved the drawings, and my comment was who there approved them and why aren't they approved to meet city codes? No answer.
It's not
Question
in the
about-
city though, right?
Huh?
It's not in the city.
yeah.
It is.
Prado's not-
That's city
for
property.
Oh.
Yes.
CDD
Pardon me.
border.
I thought that was CDD.
I think
They
it's a
are,
mess.
it's a
But-
gateway.
But they're governed by the city.
Still city, okay.
So,
Not city border.
I saw the prints, there's no nothing describing any what they call lime rock bedding for the concrete to be put on. I suggested they make the level of the concrete at least a little bit higher than the dirt, so that the runoff of water doesn't take the dirt and stain the sidewalks, which is a problem I have in my house. Asked about putting the grass back, and the contractor said he didn't quote that. Lenore said, oh, that might be our responsibility, we'll check. I asked about the trees, oh, there's trees in the way. Just haphazard, let's just plop this in and get away from there. I mentioned it to the CDD, and Mr. Tinkle asked about the plans that the people originally had. He said, is the city going to come out and inspect it? And I advised him, the city doesn't come out and inspect anything unless a permit's pulled and a request is made for inspectors to come. None of that has been done. I know there's no permit over there right now with the equipment that's there. I asked the residents, and there's no permit hanging around, but they do get a blanket permit for construction work. And since this was supposed to be part of the original project, they may be doing it underneath that.
But then there should be inspections.
But there should be inspections, and unless the city's notified, there won't be an inspection. They didn't inspect anything in Carina. They just poured concrete and walked away. And my real, I guess I'm very upset that the engineers that we have, Tetra Tech, working for us, seem to just walk away from this and say, well, yeah, that's how they do it sometimes, and it's not a big deal. To me, it is a big deal, because we end up paying the bill down the pike to fix this stuff. You know,
So what do you want, Jim?
huh?
What do you want?
Money. I just think we should push the district to enforce the city codes. When I talk with the city engineer.
Have you talked to Danny Nelson?
I haven't talked directly to Danny Nelson. I brought this up at the meeting, and.
Danny's the VP, call him directly.
Well, I will call him directly, but the fella Bill Porter at the city code enforcement said, you guys need to remember one thing at that CDD. You are not the municipality. You did not make the rules. You have to follow them. And I reminded our board of that. But when Tetra Tech was here, not one of them brought that up to the Tetra Tech fellow, to Danny actually. So it's kind of like we got something, but we're not going to follow it. I will follow up on this. I'll call Danny up and ask him. And I wish Chris had been here while I was talking about this, but I'll bring it up to him too. But anyhow, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's
So they're not
okay.
building, they're not building with the codes.
They're not building with the code as I can see at this point, and I will double check. I'm actually going out with a shovel tonight to see if they built any of the sidewalks to code, because I can dig right past where one sits.
We also could use Gail Anthony to get an inspector out there. Call her off.
I actually thought about getting her involved
Yeah.
with something.
Or Saeed. Tell them we want an inspector, we really appreciate it, they'll do it.
I think I've tried to, we're working with those folks at times, so, yeah.
Okay, on to some more things that happened at the meeting. Bob was involved in a discussion of some of the obligations that Lenore did not live up to.
Yeah, I was gonna cover that in my thing, but I'll.
Okay, well, yeah, why don't
Okay.
why don't we wait until we get to that? Other things very quickly, the CDD is gonna have to upgrade their website for ADA requirements. Gonna be pretty expensive to do. There was a discussion of the storage facility as to whether that should be maintained or not. But that comes into play with the plan, which they seem to have trouble coming up with any decision about whether they need a new building or a temporary building to expand the staff. They're now looking at a temporary building, I guess. And the other things that were of interest to us will come up in, the only thing is that they approved the $500,000 transfer. There are two items that involve safety and security work group, which I will discuss under that report. Any questions on the GEC, the board meeting?
Is this the September 6th meeting?
This was the September 6th meeting.
Under the SSG, we're gonna wait till we do SSG?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll hold off my comments.
Yeah.
Because I have a question about that.
Yeah.
I need to leave. I have company coming at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
No excuse.
So
Yeah, let's continue if you need to leave, Nancy,
Yeah.
you can leave.
I thought we'd be out of here by now.
Okay, let the record show that Ms. Olson departed at 4:25. Bob, go ahead.
Okay, under ponds, first of all, the water monitoring equipment and the weir height equipment. The first phase is completed. That covers Carina Weir, the tree line weir, and the back behind what used to be the Goodwill Shopping Center weir. So real-time data is coming back to the district. I guess it's hourly, I don't even know what the time frames are. So if you ever want to know what the rainfall is, or even to see a rainfall differential in the community, that data is now available. Aside from that weir monitoring, we've added 3 additional stations that are monitoring within Pelican. One is going to be at the tree line, the town center pier. One is going to be out between Pareto and Matarita 3, where the fish grade is out there, and one's going to be up, they call them Pond 12, if I remember correctly. So we've got the 3 additional stations. The downspout initiative is still going forward. We finished now with Portofino. We are currently engaged in Bellagio, and the contractor had to leave for a while and go do other things because he has business other than Pelican, although for the last 18 months you wouldn't know that. But we expect to break ground out in Solaro shortly after. And then the next community out there, and I don't know which one it will be, we'll just keep rolling as long as we have money to get the job done. On September 5th, we held a meeting over here at the district offices between Lennar, our district engineer, Lennar's attorney, our attorney, staff, and I was here to represent the ponds work group. The specific reason for the meeting was to discuss options, or maybe even to enter into a negotiated settlement of the of the Carina concern, where there's not adequate easement on the as-built properties from Cypress Grove Boulevard up to the first weir. 26 homes are affected. Had the home banks been properly constructed, they would be, some of them would be as much as 5-7 feet wider than they are today. So those particular homeowners have less grass to look at. Whether they've been infringed upon or not, that's an academic question. But the district doesn't have enough room to legally stay within the easement and service those homes. The grass should be extended, it should be made wider to provide adequate access. So the question came down to, we've been largely ignored because this has been brought up with us and Lennar and WCI before for, I guess we're now getting into the category of years. But the purpose of the meeting was to try and get this resolved. And without going into all the pushback, back and forth, the bottom line is there's 2 choices. They will fix it, as it's supposed to be done, or if the homeowners don't want it fixed, they're going to grant the right of access to whatever. And there was no third option. A third option had been presented, I ran it by the attorney, whereby some homeowners might receive some sort of cash remuneration for giving up their rights. And he convinced me we don't want to go down that road. So that's not an option now. So now it is between doing it or not doing it. Again, I don't have an order, I don't care. Right now it's in Phil Rovner's arena, and he is going to take it before his homeowners to see what they want to do. Whether they want to suffer the inconvenience of having this thing fixed for 6 months, or whether they're just saying, hey, forget all about it and move on. So I don't know where that's going to happen. While we had the meeting, it was an opportunity we had one of the honchos from Lennar there, a fellow by the name of Russell, previously referred to as Darth Vader. But apparently, Mr. Smith can make decisions. It may not be decisions you like, but at least if he says he's going to do it, we're told that he'll do it. So I brought up to him the problem that we're having with getting the downspouts installed properly and the drainage bubble ups installed in Pareto and Pistoia. And like so many of the discussions with Lennar, this of course was the first time he ever heard about this, despite all the vice presidents and all the letters that are flying. And he said he was vaguely aware of the fact that we were going to pay $450 a home, But they thought, the collective Lennar folks thought we were gonna pay them to put in the downspout drainage that they had to put in based on the current permit criteria now. So for some reason, somebody over there thought we just wanted to pay for something they were obligated to do. So we straightened that out. No, we really want to have it between us. So he's promised to look into it. I saw a communication as recently as today from Mr. Smith. Did you see that one, Chris?
I haven't.
He put one out today. But it's still being investigated, but that's actually a move forward on that particular issue. We also talked about the drainage in Pareto, and I believe just so by extension. Those homes the lawns keep flooding when it rains heavy, every day. All the trash, debris sweeps up midway on their driveways. And this one really tickled me, because when that was brought up to Lennar, their stock answer was, well, we've already transferred that to the district. Those assets are ours. So Tony got a little belligerent about that and told them that we're still under warranty number 1, and what's clogging them is your crap, I mean Lennar, on the construction of the building. And then Lennar said, well, don't get offensive about it. I mean, I didn't say we weren't gonna pay. So the point was, we wanted to fix it. Well, they didn't want to fix it, so now we are fixing it. Chris engaged Met Tower to come out there this week. I went out and reviewed what they were doing, and Lennar told us to send the bill. And I believe it was Tony said, if we send you the bill, are you gonna pay it? And we never got an answer to that. So we're back in that kind of a game with Lennar, which is, we're all getting pretty much used to it. But that was the outgrowth of the meeting. We had a meeting, I had a meeting with Passarella 2 weeks ago to go over the web portal that they're building for us, and to bring the Cypress Grove community up to the level that the rest of the community is at. We have a budget item in our 2018-19 budget of $15,000, and I wanted to make a motion today that we approve the expenditure of $15,000 next year for Passarella Associates. To update the website, keep building on it. So it is a budgeted item. I don't know if we need a motion, but I feel more comfortable doing that, because we're coming to October and we started the year, and we need things done. And the gentleman that had done that for us in the past, Dave Place, and he came to all the meetings, he passed away suddenly at age 49. When he was on vacation, he just dropped dead.
Bob, this website, Tony's been bringing to the CDD attention the requirement to have websites reconfigured.
ADA
for
compliant?
CDD. Yes. What we're paying for, will that meet that criteria?
I doubt it
that
very
require?
much. I doubt, this is just information. I don't know what that ADA requirement is.
I'll tell you that I estimate from a couple vendors to make our website ADA compliant, which is stuffed with a lot of things that aren't required by law, including, like when our lightning detectors go off, and that was $50,000.
That's just the inspection, wasn't it?
Well, that's to.
Is that the actual conversion of everything?
To what's on there now, but nothing new, and if we just put on there what's legally required and really chalk our website, reduce the content by about 95%, it would be $10,000. Plus anything new, you have to reconfigure or train somebody
Yeah.
how to do it. If they do it, it's.
But that's a great question.
$95
But
cents a
that
page.
website is required by law.
Well,
And
the
this one is-
website's required, but there's only a number of things that have to be on the
Right,
website.
right.
And
Yeah.
we
You
of
have to
course,
have those.
Our site is not a mandatory thing. This is
Okay.
an informational item that is available to people.
Okay, just
But I'm still gonna
concern,
answer.
Yeah.
Well, I would be cautioning you on that too, because they're gone after fire districts and CDDs, and they said HOAs are next.
Well, this isn't even an HOA.
This isn't even an HOA.
This is a work group, but anyway, I'll look into it and see what it is. What's
We don't, just
required.
make sure we don't get stung.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
Is
Take
this-
it down.
Is this in the budget, the
Yes.
15,000?
Yeah, yeah, we've done it for 4 years now.
So I don't think we need to,
Okay, I didn't know if we did it.
I don't think so.
But we'll be getting a new quote from them shortly for the next year,
Yeah.
and we'll stay within our budgeted amount. And lastly, and it's a question, I guess, for Chris, and I've also posed it to Tony, and that is, we have a candidate running for the CDD that chooses to use this logo on his campaign material. And it has an implied connotation that he's speaking for Gateway, since it's on our letterhead, and I don't think that's appropriate, and I don't know if you could opine on that or not.
I'm gonna send them a note today, and then we had about 3 different people that came in here and complained about it, and I told them to call the supervisor of elections.
Okay. I could certainly do that too. Yeah, I had 2 people complain to me. I didn't really catch it, but.
I've had people complain, and I would think the CDD should be guarding their logo and telling people to cease immediately using it for any of their private.
Well, that was a
purposes.
question to Tony, so we'll get it.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear something from Tony, but the proper place to address those complaints is the supervisor of elections.
Okay, and, okay, I got one other thing, but I'll do it when safety and security comes up. That's it.
Okay.
Just,
Yeah, question.
they did, at least on my property in Bellagio, they did a great job, I think. I have some concern. Who should I address those concerns to? You or?
Doug Zanter, or the contractor himself. If there's anything wrong, they'll fix it.
I don't have any contact information.
Oh, he's a resident director, Doug Zanter. He's a bonds guy that does it. But if you want me to have him call you, I'll just.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still overflowing.
Okay.
In a couple minutes.
A couple of things seem to have dropped off the agenda.
Yeah,
Nancy, I don't know what happened to this agenda.
Yeah, 5th Engineers, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nancy, you wanna give your report?
just very quickly, I've been talking about, we're coming to the end of this, and as far as I know Danny asked, that this be put on the agenda for the next CDD meeting. What it is it's the conclusion of the bond proceeds that we've been working with, and out of this, Bob got about $1 million worth of funding to use on behalf of the phase 1 of Pelican. There's still a couple $100,000 that are left, that the proposal is, that presumably WCI could lay claims to, and if they don't, and they don't wanna take the $200,000, then that'll be used to reduce the bond.
Principally.
And so that's where we are today. It should come, as far as I know, to the next CDD meeting for a vote of the supervisors, and then.
So this is the last, the 5th report is the last report.
Should be the last one, I close
Should be the
it
last
out,
one.
if we're lucky. I tried to spend it, guys.
Good job.
I tried to spend it, they wouldn't let me.
Any questions, Nancy?
Good job on that, Nancy, that was a pain in the butt.
Do you know what the bottom line cost was for your engineer to do that?
It was all covered under the bond.
Yeah, the bond proceeds paid for it,
Mhm.
the engineer's report?
And for the legal work and for the bond counsel.
Do you know what the price was for
Oh,
that?
it's on?
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh, how much?
Yeah, it's on one of the schedules.
Yeah, it's on my schedule.
I don't think it was $5,000 or $10,000.
No. Professional fees.
That includes the engineer, bond counsel, and Tony's time.